was a bit daunting to make that call for myself. But I'm glad I made it because, it's led me to where I am today. And I can't envision where I would be had I not made that choice. So it's like that was ultimately the right choice to make because it led me to today. I'm Morgan Baker, and Bin Night with Tack and Maddie is pretty good. It's pretty good. You should listen to it. I would listen to it. I mean, not my own episode because I was there, but other episodes, I would listen. It's pretty good.
G'day. Welcome to Midnight with Tack and Maddie. Maddie was doing a little interaction or reenaction of, Artemis 2.
Yes.
It's on the way to the moon.
Jeez, I love seeing it. Is that actually going to the moon? Or is that doing a loop around the moon?
They're doing a loop around and coming back.
They just go around it and come back. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Is this a test run for them to actually land on the moon soon?
I haven't actually looked into it in that much detail, but I'm sure it is because there's all this stuff about going to the moon and establishing a moon base and whatever. So I'm sure that's part of it.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's all I know about it. But it's sad that at the moment it's because of the state of the world, it's not more hopeful and inspirational news than kind of what it is. It feels like it's in the background of all of this other stuff. But I do have a story for you, Matt. It's a quest. Last week, I am now keyless for my house and my garage. Because I've had these back issues, right? I haven't really been able to do any kind of cardio stuff much. Last week, I kind of accidentally just started doing long walks with Ari, right? Him in the pram, and I just push him. And so it's like 7-8 Ks in one hit. I just walk for 3 to 4 Ks in one direction, and then I kind of work my way back. And we'd stop by the park, and he gets to play on the swings, which he loves. And so I'd done this 2 days in a row, once with me and once with Ari. And on the third day, I was like, I'll take Ari. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get 2 5-kilo dumbbells, and I'm going to put them in the bottom of the pram just to give me a little bit more exercise on this walk. So I did that, and I've got the nappy bag and my bottle, his bottle, all that kind of stuff in there. So I've got probably extra 12 kilos plus him, who's somewhere between 8 and 10-ish kilos in the pram itself. I'm pushing that. And so I push these 8 Ks, stop by the park, let him play on the swing, and I go home, get out the nappy bag, get this out, get that out, and then I'm like, the key's in this little bag that attaches to the handles of the pram. But it's not the right bag for the model of pram. We didn't realize that there were different bags for different models, and we got the wrong one off Facebook Marketplace. But I just used it anyway, and I went to get the keys out. There are no keys. I was like, I'm pretty sure I put them in there. Search all the bags, everywhere else. No keys. And I'm like, Ari's due to have some milk and go to bed. Now, in fact, he's a little bit late for that. And these keys aren't here. And I've walked 8 kilometers with an extra 12 kilos in the pram. So I message Amy, let her know. But she's at work. She's stuck there because she's got a training thing. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I have to rewalk these 8 Ks, and hopefully I dropped them, right at the very start. So then I take out the weights, take out the nappy bag, take out the bottle, make it as light as possible. Because my legs are fairly cooked by this stage. It's a couple of hours that I've been walking. And so then, all right, strap in, here we go. Off I go, and I'm searching the ground because I know it's fallen. This bag was on one side of the pram, so I know it's fallen on this side. So I'm looking down, walking these 8 Ks again, go back to the park, get all the way back home, nothing. So at this point, I've walked like 16 Ks or something. And Amy's like, look, just message some people in our parents group that we're a part of who live close by and see they're by. No one's available. So then walk a little bit more of where I'd walked again, go back to the park. There's a cafe there. So I sit in the cafe, get them to charge my phone because it was dying. And I couldn't find the keys anywhere. The next day, I walk the 8 Ks again with Mia this time. Oh wait, was it with Ari? I can't even remember. I've walked it that many times. I've lost track. Walk it again. Still can't find it. I go to 3 different police stations. None of them have it. But I do discover that people do hand in keys. They had each one had a shoebox size box that was full. And one of them said, "Oh, this is just the last month." So if you do lose your keys, do go to the police station because people do hand them in. So I'll go back there at the end of this week to see if it's there. But it's
I thought you had
such a pain.
I thought you had a good ending for that they were
No
under
good
the doormat or
ending.
something.
So I walked
No.
probably 30 Ks at the end of it. Just still haven't found the keys. And that first time, it was a warm day.
devastating.
And I was, because of my back, I was wearing 2 T-shirts so that I had one T-shirt underneath, then a back brace on because I knew, this long might start to hurt, and then the shirt over the top. So the second time around, we walked past the path that I'd went. I didn't realize went past this place called Sebi's Scrolls. Happy to advertise it because they're delicious. They started off doing cinnamon scrolls in COVID, and now it's sort of blown up. They got 2 locations, and they're really delicious. But they have some flavors of the month that they do each month, and this is a new month. So that second time around, I was getting really hungry because again, I was probably 3 hours into the walking now. So I stopped buying and get them, and she gives me there's 2 scrolls, gives me 1 in each box. I'm like, why don't you just put in 1 box? But anyway, and as she gives them to me, I obviously I've got the pram and whatever. I'm trying to pay with my phone, blah, blah. And then she's, "Oh, do you want a carry bag?" And I was like, "Oh, no." And then I realized the reason she was saying that because she realized that when she closed the lid on the box, she smushed the sauce on the outside, and that just gone all over my shirt. So I spent probably 8 hours of the day outside, 5 of which with sauce all over my shirt, with Ari, not knowing what to do, where my keys are. Yeah, it was a hell of a day.
Having sauce on your shirt added to that. That's not a normal thing.
It was just the kind of thing of of course. It was a decent amount. It was a chunk that size. It was not it wasn't just a little drip or a slight line. I was like, well, it's really obvious. And
you're leaving me hanging. I need to hear the end of this.
Well, the end is literally.
Is this the case to car or house?
I had just the house, fortunately.
How did you get back in?
I had to wait for Amy to finish work. So I had to wait till. So I left home at 9:30 with Ari. Realized I didn't have the keys around 12, and then she didn't get back till about 6.
So we were get a locksmith to come over.
I actually didn't think about that. I did think about jumping fences and trying to get in through the back of the house, the back of the place. But then I'd have to leave Ari to go and be able to do that. He obviously couldn't come over the fences, etc. with me. But for whatever reason, I didn't really think about a locksmith. In this economy, Matt, I didn't want to be opening a door with a locksmith when Amy has another key.
Like that. Yeah. That's awful. Yeah.
And you know what?
A good day out,
the key that I lost is the owner's original, because he came around and I said, "Look, the keys that we had just sort of spin in the lock a bit, and it can take 30, 40 seconds for them to catch on to the lock, because I think that the key that they're copied off is slightly ground down in one point, so it doesn't catch very well." So he's like, "Well, my key works. Well, I'll swap your keys." So he took the one that's sort of not so great, and I had his one. So I've lost that important key. We just got new garage remotes because the garage remotes weren't working.
Oh, they're going to be expensive.
So then I've got to replace the garage remote and the key. But I don't even know if we have a key that is the good cutting of the key. So the compounding.
You might have to call a locksmith in the end of the day anyway.
I know. It was after a week of just
it'll be in the pram
I just
somewhere.
Need some. No,
it'll be jammed in between weird.
I've
underneath
tipped things
fabric.
upside down. I you know me. I'm gonna do this walk another couple of times of. It's so difficult because if I found the keys, right, I'd probably just put them on the closest fence thing so they're really visible, because myself, I know I would then go and backtrack my steps. And maybe for me, if I then did that walk again, I still saw them there, maybe then I'd go take them to police at that time. Because I feel like less people probably actually would do the step to go to the police station. Rather than just backtrack and then see them there. But I could be wrong in that. But the problem with if I had just done my standard walk that we normally do, which is like 2.5 Ks, I probably could find them. But along 8 Ks, you've got people with grass that's really long. If it happened to fall out in there, I can't go through every property that has long grass there and like try to sift through to find it. It's just, I was like, of course, I try to do this good thing for me of getting extra exercise and walk a long way.
But didn't you ever?
3 days into it. 3 days into it, then lose the keys. It's like, why am I getting punished for doing this thing? I'm like, anyway, that's my epic story of
the little man's just
disappointment.
sitting in the pram, having the best time of his life. Having got no idea.
The bonus of it, the second time round, didn't realize he'd thrown his hat in the ground, found the hat. So there's a positive. And it's a good hat because he's got a big head, hard to find him hats. And he doesn't sleep in the pram. So I was faced with that issue at 12 o'clock or whatever when he was supposed to start his nap with, oh no, he's not going to have a chance to sleep the entire day. But along that second push, along that second push, he did fall asleep. So he slept for an hour in the pram, which is, he's literally never slept in the pram before. He slept back like 3 weeks old in the bassinet. But then he realized, hey, there's heaps of stuff to look at. I really enjoy this. I'm not sleeping in a pram ever.
They've all got a limit. Yeah,
so,
they all crash. We've been doing something similar with our 1-year-old. We've like been like, okay, she's only going to sleep in the car. You cannot transfer her or she'll wake up. And this, for whatever reason, we were forced to do it and found out, okay, she transfers just fine. Maybe it's just a period in their life when they can't. And there's also like a short window as well, like a 15 minutes when they first fall asleep. They're rarely going to wake up. Nothing can wake them up. Once you get to that 20 minutes plus, it's really sensitive. So if you miss that window, then it's gone.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks later, they'll change their minds and it'll be completely different.
Yeah. The joys.
He's now walking like 4 or 5 steps in a row, very confidently without holding on to anything. Ironically, in his, what do you call those little trolley things that they push? Walker. Sort of thing. He's got one that's like painted red like a fire truck and he loves it. Yep. Puts all his toys in it. But we also put in, he's got 10 kilos in there that he pushes. So
he's like father, like son.
Yeah. There you go. And, he approaches it like the gym. He goes, ah!
He'll be doing a high rocks in no time.
Yeah. No, the reason, before anyone complains, the reason we put the weight in there so he doesn't tip it and then hurt himself. The weight.
Yeah, or it goes too fast and they can't keep up and end up face planting. Yeah. No, we got the same.
But training his quads like nothing else.
Yeah. Mate, our 5-year-old was doing push-ups the other day on his own. He just got out of bed and he's like, Daddy, I did 5 push-ups. I'm like, yes.
Have you been letting him watch some like
he's officially done more exercise than me lately. No. I don't know. I don't know where he got that from. He just did it. I don't know. You can never pick these things. You could be walking past someone. It could be on TV. It could be someone. No, I haven't. Well, yeah, he has like a long time ago, but it's not like he's copying me in the spot. But he just had he woke up. He's like, I'm going to be strong today. So I'm going to be, I don't know. He keeps doing it over and over again. He's got more willpower than me.
Barry's trying to impress Penny. He's got to work on the rig. The summer body's built in winter, and that he knows that. He's ahead of the game, Matty.
Maybe he's been watching the Manosphere because he's also been asking for a Ferrari. I'm like, okay.
Of course he has.
Did we speak about that with Brett? I think we
not
might
the Ferrari. I don't think.
Oh, he's just obsessed with the Ferrari. Yeah.
Well, they go fast.
They go fast. Well, I told him that some Teslas are faster than a Ferrari, and he's like, okay, I want a Tesla now. And I'm like, well,
it's cheaper on the
fuel. Something cool about a Ferrari, man. They're handmade. I don't know. He'll figure it out.
They're handmade, which doesn't necessarily mean they'll last as long as you like, but they look really good while they break down. So,
yeah. Hey, we've got a really, I don't care if Ferrari comes for me. Just talk to me. Talk to me, Ferrari. We've got a really long episode coming up because we had a really interesting chat with well, you know who it is, Morgan Baker. We were lucky enough to work with him a couple of times on his return to Neighbours, but this is a guy who's spent most of his childhood on our screens, and I guess you could say that he's been a lot of people's surrogate kid. right? Because he's been inside their living rooms at the same time. So, but he's got some really interesting perspective. He's been hanging around grown-ups when he was meant to be hanging around kids. But yeah, this is a cracker. Here he is.
Welcome to Bin Night with Tack and Tech Savvy Maddie. Tech Savvy is what Matt has as his name on the little recording thing that we use, which is great because it's the ironic statement of the year. Hey, how you doing, Morgan?
I'm pretty good. How are you boys?
Oh, you sound so good, nice and crispy. I'm liking that we moved that mic nice and close. Ooh.
You did your hair for this too.
I did, actually. I combed it to the side.
You put way more effort in than Matt has ever. What's up, Morgan? Where are you at in life right now? What's going on?
Yeah, look, life's all right, you know. I'm 28. I'm turning 29 this year, which is kind of weird to say. Last year in the 20s, that's a bit funny. I'm freelancing, so I'm doing kind of cam operating and editing, and I'm all over the place, really, to be honest. It's funny because I saw you, obviously, a couple of months ago, randomly on a set for like an hour because you'd popped in for that little thing that Molly Daniels was making, which was cool.
Yeah.
It was like a speed dating thing that I was shooting.
Yeah, and hey, my episode has like 60,000 views on Instagram. I'm just going to throw that out there. Everyone should go look at it. It's very funny. And
Not to brag,
but
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. But yeah, so freelancing. So honestly, like it's, I'm all over the place. So lots of camera operating stuff. I can feel like this bud's about to fall out of my ear. Yeah, camera operating and editing. And although from like November to March, I was working on the women's basketball randomly.
Well, like in how to make it better, or like were you?
I wasn't on the court. No. For the Sports Entertainment Network, I was doing, which like they subcontract out to Channel 9 for broadcast. I was doing the graphics operating, so like sending the graphics to air essentially. So like the scores, the commentators' names, all the ads that pop up around the game, like this on screen. Basically doing that, and yeah, that was fun. Like, I did the Spring Carnival 2 years in a row, which was random. Watched more horse racing than I've ever had an interest in watching. And yeah, did that. Got to hear producers yelling at Eddie Maguire and vice versa, which was fun. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very all over the place, you know?
I guess people would be interested to hear, and we can answer the question now, is the acting side of things done and dusted, or are you still like, that's still available, but you're liking behind the camera stuff more?
Because obviously I stopped working at Neighbours like over a decade ago, right? So it was, I made the decision to leave after like 6 years. I felt like after 6 years, you know, I felt like I've experienced a lot of
You're a multimillionaire kid. You don't need
I'm a
more,
multimillionaire kid. I'm ultra, you know, successful and living this lavish lifestyle. No, not really. I started there when I was 10 and I finished up when I was like a couple of months off being 17. So I chose to just kind of have a bit of normal. That's what I was really ultimately looking for at that time. It was just like, cool, I want a social life. I want to actually have friends that I can see that aren't all adults hanging out in the green room. As fun as it was hanging out with adults in the green room. But yeah, so I did that. And then I realized that I still had this deep passion and connection with film and television, and which I'd always been when I was on set at Neighbours, mostly interested in the machinations behind the camera. Like that was the thing that really to me was interesting. It was like, okay, why are they framing shots like this? Oh, what's the blocking like? Oh, like what's the editing going to be like? And I constantly would be going and looking in the back end at all the different departments. It was always just fascinating to me. So yeah, did high school and still did like film and television media classes and stuff like that. And that was the subject that I gave it my all. Every other subject, honestly, I didn't care that much about because I didn't think I was going to go to university. Yeah, so I ended up going to uni, doing a Bachelor of Film and Television Production. Absolutely loved it. Came back to Neighbours, funnily enough, a couple of times while I was also at uni. So it kind of bookended my uni chapter nicely. I went back once and then at the start of the degree, and at the end of the degree. And at the end of the degree, I was able to do like a director's attachment at Neighbours, and actually, I think I directed a scene that had the two of you in it. Actually,
I'm trying to remember what scene it was. Can you remember?
Yeah, it was some 40-second, like, just we need to just get a little bit of exposition in for this storyline, so we'll slip it in. It's like literally like a 40-second scene, like just to make sense of point A to point B to point C in the story. I remember, and so they were like, "Yeah, he can do that scene. That's fine."
That's how they said about David and Aaron for it. It's like, oh, just give them that exposition. They just do it.
just fill it out. But no, so did that, and then uni, and then kind of started just working professionally in film and TV, and then I mean, like, freelancing is so all over the place, like conceptually, like that's kind of the benefit is like, oh, I'm free, yeah, I'll do that job, but it also just means I'm chaotic, basically.
It's that classic thing of oh, cool, you can pick your hours. Yes, all of them.
You've jumped around, like you've said you've done FX stuff, you've done like lots of camera operator stuff, you've done directing heaps of stuff. Like, where does it sit for you? Because it seems like sometimes you walk onto a set and everyone has dreams of being a director. Is that it for you?
I mean, look, yes, I'd love to actually be directing stuff. I think, it's all about managing your expectations of what you can output, like, because it costs money to make film. Like, that's the reality of it is, like, unless you're getting people to do it for nothing, which I've worked on those sets as well. I do it for the love of the game, really, more than anything else, particularly when it's actually enjoyable creative works, like, and not just directing, but like cam opping or lighting, so gaffing, or I'll do basically anything except sound. I'm shocking at sound. So, like,
I'm the same.
No, it's not even that I'm shocking at
sound.
it. Yeah. Well, it's not even that I'm shocking at it. It's just like I'm a visual person. So, like, conceptualizing sound as a waveform, it just, like, I understand it and, like, it makes sense, obviously, but, like, it's just not for me. I think, there are a lot of talented soundies out there who are really good at their craft. I'm not one of them. So, yeah.
What is there a specific kind of thing you want to make?
I mean, look, the ultimate would just be like narrative film. Like, and it's, it's kind of a broad thing to say, but it's like, because
paint the picture. What are we looking at here? Horror? We're going some sort of crime, action?
Not even, look, I enjoy different genre fare. I think it kind of, the most interesting films to me kind of transcend genre. So you get stuff that is very dramatic but has elements of comedy. Like, I love the films of the Coen brothers.
So Neighbours,
I think they perfectly
is what you described.
Oh, exactly. Neighbours, the perfect marrying and marriage of comedy and drama together as one,
and horror, and thriller,
and
procedural,
and procedural drama, medical drama, somebody's kidnapping,
whatever genre that is.
Yeah. And then just, like, whatever was going on, like, with, like, the characters who were just out and out comedic, I felt like that was always, to me, also the most fun, like, on the show. Because I like my character, Callum. Oh, yeah. If for those who don't know, I played a character called Callum Rebecchi on Neighbours. I was Toadie's kid.
Who began as Callum Jones, right?
I did begin as Callum Jones, yes.
I did some research.
Oh, I'm glad. Good. Could you tell me the blurb of my character, please?
I didn't do that much research. I did read you were supposed to be an Indonesian kid or something. Is that?
I was.
You were an Indonesian kid. Oh,
yeah. I'm not. My stepfather is Indonesian,
Really?
actually. Funnily enough, so I have an
there you go.
Indonesian connection, but I am not Indonesian.
Glad we got that cleared up for all the audio people out there.
Just for clarity, I am not. If you're hearing me speak and not seeing my face, I am Caucasian. So I think he was meant to be an Indonesian kid, and then they made a swap last minute, and cast me. And, like, initially it was just a guest role, so, like, I only started on the show for 3 months. And as they do, they try our characters out, they see how they gel with the other characters, and whether the writers are having fun with, like, writing scenarios for those characters. They see how the performers go as well. And I mean, particularly when you're hiring a 10-year-old, like, if they audition well and then you start shooting with them and then you go, yeah, maybe not, then you'd write them out. But no, I was lucky enough to be there for 3 months, and then it was another 3-month contract, then it was a 6-month contract, then it was from that point on year to year just as a main cast member. And Yeah. But yeah, Callum was a fun character. But yeah, predominantly comedic. I feel like that was kind of where that was my character's wheelhouse, really, was just kind of being a bit goofy and being like kind of a foil to other characters who were having like love story scenarios, like whether it was whether it was like there was Sophie, who was played by Kaya Jones, who was about my character's age, and then there was Bailey Turner, who was played by Callum McKenzie. They were like constant love triangles, but I was always kind of like the goofy, not ending up with the person one, but but that was fun to play, honestly, being like willfully ignorant of how not out of my league the other person was kind of quite funny. So, I preferred the comedy. I feel like that was my kind of strength as a performer. Because back to the question you actually asked me. Sorry, I talk in circles, but you asked me about performing.
No, you're good. You remember what the question is, because I just forget the question and go, what was I answering?
So to answer the question you asked me 10 minutes ago, I haven't closed the door on acting necessarily. It's just that personally I'm more professionally enriched by being behind the camera. Like I feel like there's kind of two trains of thought when it comes to filmmaking, because I think actors are filmmakers as well. I think everybody that's working on a film is a filmmaker in some regard. And so being like the director is just you're leading the ship, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the cinematographer or the soundie or the gaffer or the grips or the people doing production design, set designers, costumers, hair and makeup, like every single facet of production, they are filmmakers, because what I love about film is that it's this beautiful, it's beautiful. It's this collaborative effort in making an artwork. Unlike painting, for example, that's very singular vision. Obviously,
it's very rare to have two
music.
painters working on one canvas.
Correct. And sharing a vision for what the final product is. Whereas like film, you have this beautiful collaborative tapestry of different artists all having kind of the common goal of we want to make this thing, and it's the director, the writer writes a script, and then the director takes that script and then goes, cool, how do I envision that, and how do I want to bring that to life? And then in the edit looks at what they shot and goes, fuck, did we get it? I hope we did. And then crafts the final version of the film. So it's like, you have that 3 versions of film. But yeah, I think everybody's a filmmaker. So like for me, I've just always found that more kind of creatively enriching to really be a part of the team like that, versus as a performer, I think it's very easy to be very kind of insular and internalize, because inherently it's kind of a personal journey. If you're portraying a character, you're conceptualizing kind of, okay, who is this person? What is their lived experience? How am I going to project that for the camera? It's, you're really kind of looking inward. You're not really thinking about what's going on externally. Like obviously, a director will have conversations with you about how you're portraying the character, or what the arc is, and how to get from A to B, essentially. But yeah, for me, I'm just more interested in what's going on behind the camera, honestly. I think even when I was 10, and I started on Neighbours, the most interesting thing for me was looking out at Studio B and the grid of lights above me, and because at the time we had 3 cameras in studio, and they were all the pedestal cameras, and they were live switching the show as we were filming each scene. So it took 20 minutes to shoot a scene, and it was edited at the end of the scene. That to me was just amazing. And yeah, I've always kind of just been really intrigued by that. But as for acting, back to the question again, I haven't closed the door on it. It's just for me not as
it's not at the forefront.
Much of focus. No. So I have performed in a couple of things here and there with friends. I've got a creative partner named Samuel, who actually was also filming that web series for Molly Daniels that you were in. So he was the cinematographer on that. And yeah, we've made a couple of things together. We made a short film that kind of did the festival circuit a couple of years ago. And I was one of the key performers in that. But also that role played to my strengths, because I don't think I'm a particularly adept dramatic performer. That's not, and I think part of that honestly is just due to lack of training. Realistically, I think it takes a certain element of consistency to have a mastery of any skill. And I feel like, as I've kind of stopped acting, it's not really something that I've put enough energy into. I think if I wanted to be pursuing it full-time professionally, I think like anything, you just have to keep at it, particularly acting, which is a very punishing industry to be in, because, you audition and then you don't hear anything. You audition and then you don't hear anything.
You're at a tricky stage in your life as well, though. You're 10 years old starting. You're not focused on on trying to be the best at this craft. I mean, you're just rocking up and having fun, right?
At 10, you're experiencing what is essentially the pinnacle of life as an actor in Australia, in that you have a regular paycheck for basically the whole year, which,
it's almost nobody has that.
To be earning a living wage as an actor in Australia is essentially impossible unless you're one of the key names who is earning a paycheck beyond what is the salary of an actor. They're getting, their name just being a part of it, so they get a big paycheck. But for most people, they might get a TV series that maybe lasts a month to 3 months, and that's still probably not enough for them to survive the year. So everyone's living off whatever else they do. So I think even whether you were conscious of it or not, there would have been an element to I've kind of experienced the peak of what this is. I can see all these adults around me and the lives that they have, and the struggles that they have. I think it would have been, whether it be conscious or subconscious, a wise decision in your 10-year-old brain to go, maybe there's some more security for me elsewhere. That I would prefer. Not that, freelancing, the surf freelance lot.
Yeah, security is questionable.
but at least there is more work for crew in that sense. If you can prove that you can do something, as opposed to an actor who has to find a role that matches their age, their ethnicity, their look, their height, their everything else. Can you hold a camera and make it look pretty? That's not to degrade that, but it's a skill that you can work on, whereas as an actor there's a whole lot more things that are completely out of your control, that determine whether you might be right for a role.
I got a quote for you, Morg. This is straight from obviously you wrote this, it's Wikipedia. Here we go. So it says, a keen chef, it is said that if he doesn't succeed in acting, he would like to appear on Ready Steady Cook. Does that still stand?
Shout out.
We're talking 2014 here.
Yeah, okay. So that I did say in an interview one time, yes. And that did get put on Wikipedia. The only thing on your Wikipedia page.
Yes.
Which is hilarious. But look, I've always loved cooking. That's something that I've always enjoyed. Ready Steady Cook was on during the day. And so if I was in the green room at Neighbours, that was on TV around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock every day.
Good.
So I watched a fair bit of Ready Steady Cook. And Team Capsicum all the way, Team Green, go away tomato. But I mean, look, that was it was a goofy show. But
can I read the next bit? Because I want to talk about this as well. In light of this, he temporarily produced a cooking series documented on Snapchat titled Shake and Bake with Morgan Baker that ran from 2014 to 2015 before experiencing a hiatus and returning in 2016.
Okay, so just for clarity, I didn't write this on my Wikipedia.
Did you do a press release to announce the hiatus?
Yeah, so I would cook dinner at home a bit, and so whenever I was cooking, I to make fun of it, I would have a little show called Shake and Bake with Morgan Baker, and so it was Shake and Bake with Morgan Baker. I'm your host, Morgan Baker, and on today's episode, we're making chicken and leg pie, or we're making spaghetti bolognese, or whatever, and I would just film the most obnoxiously long-winded videos, because at the time on Snapchat, a snap could be 10 seconds. That was it.
Oh.
And so I would make a story that was over 1,000 seconds long because people were completionists with it. You had to skip through it just to get to the end. So it was like, oh, good, I've watched that person's stories. They're not on my phone anymore. So I kind of irritated my friends with that. But yeah, no, I did that for a bit. It was a bit of fun. It was always a bit, I just knocked something out.
Did you just break your desk?
Yeah, it's going up. It's going up. For audio listeners, my desk is going up.
So he's going down in frame.
Yeah. I'm going down with my ship, all right? A captain always goes down with his ship. So I did that for a bit. It was a bit of fun.
So do you consider yourself a writer then as well, Morgan, or is that where you're is that where you kind of stall in terms of being able to
Output,
yeah.
So I don't really consider myself a writer necessarily. I'm a good riffer, so I'm a good with I think the initial conceptual kind of like I want to make a story about blank is the thing I kind of drew blank on. That's my shortcoming as a writer. But then once I find storytelling comes about through conversation, I think. Myself and my writing partner will kind of have a chat about an idea and then build it. But I definitely am slack also. I'm just a slacker. So when it comes to actually sitting down and writing a screenplay, I'm just classic, just attention span of a goldfish. Okay, what else could I be doing right now? I could be doing something oh, come on. I'm procrastinating. I'm a shocker. When it comes to procrastination, that's one of my biggest shortcomings as a person is just I just procrastinate everything in life.
Do you think part of the problem is because you've seen so many story arcs that it feels really difficult to be original?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, look, there are only 9 stories, aren't there? It's all kind of it is limited regardless. But I do definitely think it is just hard to feel original. I think as well something that because obviously, so I finished uni 2019, so I started working professionally, and then 2020 basically was oh, you want to start working professionally in an industry, but you're low enough level freelancing that there's no job security. I'm not working full time on a production that has a COVID protocol or anything like that. So it's cool, you just aren't going to be working much. So I kind of took a hiatus for 2 years. And that just kind of rocked my confidence. I feel like it understandably so, I feel was oh, this is weird and bad, and I don't know what's going to happen. Also, there was just general fear anyway of oh, is society going to break down? What's actually happening? This bud keeps falling out of my ear. I think confidence-wise, that was just something I kind of had to deal with. And then 2021, 2022 is when I really got back into it. But now there's kind of this existential threat with AI as well that honestly has me kind of just questioning what the media landscape realistically is going to be in 5 years, 10 years, and investing myself into being all in film and TV, because it's the thing, again, I love. When I am on set, I am at home. That to me is being at home. And part of that obviously is growing up, literally being on set every day was I have a real sense of connection with that being a safe place to be and really creatively enriching. But I'm acutely aware that it's becoming a smaller pond in a way, in that a lot of those smaller, medium-sized sets are kind of shrinking. And I think, unless you're making a blockbuster tentpole thing, which I could get onto those sets if I actually pushed myself to do that, and that would be a completely unique, interesting experience. I have friends that I have a friend that just worked on Wicked Part 2 and Spider-Man, and is doing great things in the camera department, and that's awesome. But that feels very small cog in a large machine to me as well, and making a very kind of corporatized product, which I'm not really interested in as well either. As a consumer, I want to go and watch Spider-Man or Project Hail Mary or whatever, but these are very grand films. But to me, I'm more interested in kind of smaller, independent fare. Anyway, I'm interested in the process of trying to be original, which again also could be my big fatal flaw with why I've struggled to write anything, is because I'm just analysis paralysis of just yes, this is not original. I've seen this before, skip. I've seen this before, I'm bored of this, skip.
And then you look at Avatar and you're biggest films ever.
Yeah.
They are probably the most common stories ever, maybe just past or younger than your generation slightly, of those people who have been brought up with social media in their lives. Me and Maddie were born at a time when social media didn't exist. So we existed at a time when that wasn't a given. But then there is a generation that social media is a given. My son's generation will be an AI is a given. So for him, the idea of something being created by AI is a given and not something unique compared to a human experience, right? Of someone coming up with that thing and creating it. The creation part would be the person coming up with the prompt, right? So that's the human element that then has been employed in it. So there will be people who reject it, but that's kind of a now issue. If you look 20, 30 years from now, that's no longer as big a concept in the same way that digital photography versus film photography, they become two different things, two different kind of art forms. One's not necessarily seen as better or worse than the other, or more legitimate either. And I think that's ultimately where we're going to sit, because time is on AI's side. It's not on the human side in that sense, because it's infinite, we're finite.
I think, Timmy Chalamet copped a lot of heat for saying like, oh, I don't want to go the way of the ballet and the opera when talking about like
we're getting a clip here, Maddie.
Form. And right. He said that, and he lost the Oscar for it, guys. Big opera, we're onto it. And this is my hot take: is like I agree. Like I think filmmaking, as you were talking about that time scale, that infinite time scale of like computer generated content being probably the norm. Film is a relatively young medium compared to music, compared to
ballet, opera,
theatre, for example. But ballet, opera, these are old art forms, right? Painting, like oil painting, portraiture. These are niche art forms that have been supplanted by something new. Film came about as initially like it was accompanying a freak show, and it was like, oh, look, we got the moving pictures, and wow, isn't this fascinating? And people being like, wow, optical illusion, like magician tier.
I'm going to get hit by this train.
Yeah, wow, the train. But and then gradually, they sold it with narrative, and then they were able to add sound to it, and then add color, and add gradually building it up into what it has become. But it's always had these peaks and valleys, and I do think it's incredibly likely that it goes the way of splitting off and becoming large blockbuster roller coaster style things, which is these massive tentpole features, and then niche independent cinema that is like, okay, we want to tell this specific story and we're telling it through this lens, and really hyper human led, like in terms of film, in the same way that the ballet or the opera are beautiful expressions of storytelling through a specific lens of like opera is magnificent and it affects you when you watch it, and because the depth and breadth of the singing is like amazing. It's like watching the Olympics, like hearing people sing like that. It's like, oh my God, that's like peak human performance. Ballet, you're watching people do things that the average person is confounded by because it's so amazing to watch. So I see filmmaking going the same way and being like, oh, wow, what a unique independent voice on that smaller niche scale versus, and that may also involve utilizing artificial intelligence to augment the filmmaking process. I don't know. But because for sure they're going to be using it on those larger tentpole features as well. Because I know that SAG-AFTRA were fighting against them scanning people and then being like, cool, now we have 100,000 extras that we don't have to pay because we can just plop them in the background. And
we've already paid them their $300 for their day of work getting scanned.
Yeah. And now we have their face forever. That's I think, because ultimately the art versus commerce kind of argument, filming stuff costs money, like I said earlier. And so therefore they want a return on investment. And if it can cost 1/100th of what it costs at the moment to make a tentpole blockbuster film, the money people are going to be like, yeah, cool, let's spend less money. That makes sense. And as somebody who wants to make films, it's also okay, cool, I can make stuff for less. That's great. But I don't know what the cost is.
I think we're drifting off. We should be talking about you, Morgan. We should be talking more about you.
Why? We're here to have a chat. This isn't the nature of this podcast that we're just having a cheeky yarn. Isn't that the whole point? We're in the bin. We are in the bin. In the bin. That's a funny neighbour story, actually. So one time I'm in the green room. This is your clip, right? So one time I'm in the green room and there's an actor named Matt Werkmeister who played Zeke on Neighbours, and he thought it would be hilarious to put me into the recycling bin. We had these big recycling bins that were confidential recycling for all the scripts. They would sit in the green room.
Which had padlocks on them, or did they only put padlocks on them after?
They had padlocks after this. So he wheeled the bin into the washroom part of the bathroom, and then I climbed into the bin, and then he closed the lid, and then he wheeled me into the green room and popped me like next to a couch, right? And sitting on the couch was one Scott Major. And I then, because I thought it'd be hilarious, and so did Matt, I burst out of the bin.
Oh, Tack. I have been working like a dog this week. My skin is just so dry. It's outrageous. What's going on with you? You're in Melbourne. How come your skin's glowing?
Well, I've got a secret. It's magic. It's Egyptian magic. You can use it on your face, your body, even as a hair treatment.
And where did you get this stuff from, this magic potion?
From our pals and sponsors at beautyboat.com. They sent you some as well, and for a limited time, our Bin Night audience gets 25% off Egyptian magic and their entire order by using the code BIN25.
Egyptian magic, huh? Oh. Oh. Wait a second. Did you say I can use this anywhere?
Well, yeah, but don't get weird. You can use Egyptian magic as a face moisturizer, an eye cream, scar treatment, hair mask, baby cream, shaving balm, and anything else you might think of. It's got beeswax, honey, bee pollen, royal jelly, propolis.
I'm going to stock up. So what do we do? Beautyboat.com. I put everything, add all into cart. Yes, that's going straight into my basket. And the code is
BIN25. That's spelled BIN25. You get 25% off your whole order.
You guys can browse the website as there are so many incredible products, including the signature discovery boxes. Ooh la la.
Thank you, beautyboat.com.
Thank you, beautyboat.com.
Beautyboat is our official beauty partner here at Bin Night with Tack and Maddie.
Hey, Tack, is there such a thing as OnlyHands? What?
Burst out of the bin to surprise Scott Major. Now, the bin lid went whoosh, and it swung 180 degrees sideways and bonked Scott Major right on the head. And he was holding a hot coffee on his lap. And
he's wearing costume.
And he's in costume. And he is about 30 seconds off being called to set. And not only did he get burnt, but covered in hot coffee, and his costume was
bonked on the head,
covered in coffee. And it's like a white shirt, like it's covered in coffee. And it was just like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Matt Werkmeister, of course, has vanished from the scene.
He's the one that screwed up, right?
He did this to me. He stitched me up. And yeah, Scott was not happy, and Wardrobe were not happy, and I was very apologetic, and we were late that day because of me. Yeah.
Everyone lost in this
This was a lose-lose. Yeah.
Bin Night with Tack and Maddie won because we got this story.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Oh, yeah, true. We won it ultimately.
Scotty Major doesn't get upset that often. He does get upset, but not that much.
Oh, he was very upset about this.
He must have really got him.
Understandably so. It also, he got covered in like scalding black coffee. Yeah. Just the shock of it as well. Like, understandably, green room, safe space to just like relax, learn your lines, prepare to be on set.
I'm just imagining your face popping out of the bin and being like, yeah, I'm going to get this. And then just realizing slowly what you've done, clocking Scott being under the bin lid, the coffee on the shirt, the screaming from Scott that he's now burnt, not understanding what just happened to him.
Yeah. And it just like... It was, look, nobody was happy. I've got to say, I was like 12 at the time. So like,
oh, okay, that's all right.
I think culpability rests on Matt Werkmeister, not on myself. But yeah, that was, I did get a talking to.
Speaking of ruining our filming experience, did anyone pick up on the fact that your hair continuity didn't match between Neighbours 2.0 and Neighbours 3.0? Remember, so we had the end of we had the end of Neighbours, which was at the wedding, right?
Yep.
And then we had, was it a year and a half later or a year later?
Over a year later. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the people picked up on it. The thing was, right, so, because obviously we shot the finale, had the big finale, it's done. Wow, emotion, closure. We all got to experience closure, right? And then a few months later, I'm scrolling my phone and I see an article that's like, it's coming back on Amazon. And like, for me, that was like, what the fuck? Like, I started laughing. Like, it was laughable because it's like, we've done this big grand finale. We've got Kylie, that's pretty big. Brought Kylie back to the street. Didn't say much, but she was on the street. But like, I've just felt like this is crazy. Like, how are they going to bring it back? I mean, also, like, it's exciting. And I think from the, working behind the camera crewing perspective, I think, it's like 200 people working on one production.
Oh, it depends where you stop. You stop counting as like easily 200, I'd say, in the broader scope of the show, yeah.
And I feel like that is its own micro film community, like for Melbourne and for Australia more broadly, like to have not only a fantastic training grounds for cast, but also crew. Like it truly was a place where crew could have a consistent paycheck year in, year out, and also train up. And if you're making 6 eps a week, you are cranking it out. So you have to get good at being fast and fast at being good. And I think it coming back, I was like, okay, well, I'm really excited for that as an opportunity for the crew roles to really continue and have that pipeline for people to be working professionally. Now, when I went back, because obviously they were doing flashbacks to earlier, because it was the wedding to Toadie and Mel's wedding, and then coming back, it was Toadie and Teresa's wedding, but then also having the flashbacks to Toadie and Mel's wedding. Nobody mentioned to me that there were going to be flashbacks to what had been happening earlier. So because that, I didn't know that my hair continuity was going to be an issue. Because, my hair was a bit longer when I shot the finale, and then I'd had a haircut, like, just in life. A few times I'd changed my hair. Like, I get a cut every couple of months or whatever. So it's just like, cut it shorter. Yeah, short back and sides. Why not? Yeah, take half the length off the top. Sure. I don't care that much about my hair. Like, it is what it is. But I go and the hair and makeup team are like, where's your hair? And I was like, what do you mean? Why? And they're like, well, there's flashbacks. And there's flashbacks to like 2 years ago. And I was like, guys, everybody watching the show knows that it was done. All right. Nobody that's watching the show, nobody that's invested at this point in the return of Neighbours, right, doesn't know that we thought it was done. Like, because I got tattoos as well. I got a tattoo of a squid on my arm. Also as like a celebration of like that time in my life. It was like, because, it meant a lot to me to be on the show. It was a formative part of my life. I loved it. But also, so when I showed up and I was like, oh, by the way, I've got this massive tattoo on my arm. Is this going to be a problem? They were like, oh my God, we're going to have to cover this tattoo. So because the continuity of my outfit, because at the wedding in the past, I was in a short sleeve shirt and like, because it was a very chilled wedding, it meant I had to be in a short sleeve shirt again, which meant they had to spray tattoo covering stuff all over my arm because it's right on my forearm. Because it's like, like I said, acting isn't really in the forefront of my mind. So like realistically, if I was portraying a character that like,
I don't think anyone was like, oh, the show's been cancelled, but I have to keep my hair continuity just in case, like just in case they do flashbacks.
And then, when they asked me back, they didn't say, oh, by the way, do you look the same?
And to be fair, those continuity hair issues would happen regardless if there was a year between, because of how the show would shoot. And sometimes you'd have a pickup, which was like 3 weeks later, and you've had a haircut in that time. And because sometimes the haircuts weren't as close as they should have been, then your hair would be very different.
I remember there was with Chris Milligan, I think it was. Maybe it wasn't, but I'm going to say it was Chris Milligan. Why not? Who played Kyle on Neighbours. For anybody confused. Across the Christmas break, because there was like a 6-week break we take between December and January filming, they shot all the location and then
Of a block
he went
of 6 episodes, yeah.
Yep, of a block of 6 episodes. And then he came back, and then they gave him a continuity haircut on the first day back, and it was much shorter than it had been on that last week that we'd already shot all the location. So then in studio, his hair was incredibly short, but he went from Harold's inside to outside, and it was like ultra short, and then he walked out and his hair just like grew. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. But yeah, so I think, look, and it was great to go back as well to do that. I mean, again, when I came back for the second stuff, I think the hair continuity, because they were kind of like about it, and also the tattoo, they were like, oh, maybe we could get you to like be holding a jumper or something. And it was just like, wardrobe were like, we're not doing that. So it just meant it was, cover tattoo. But I feel like they cut around it a lot anyway, because all that flashback week stuff, it felt very kind of disparate, like...
I mean, if people were focusing on that, then like the story was too weak, because they're sitting there not going, oh my God, what's happening in the story? They're going, that person's hair looks different.
Yeah. I think. Look, I feel like they cut around it. Like, I was there for vibes, not for performance.
They're there, but you've got to give them something to look for too, They want those Easter eggs. So in fact, you're enriching the experience of more people by applying continuity errors. And look, if you look at the biggest films in the world, they've got continuity errors. I remember there's so many films I watch and go, wait, his arms in the wrong place between different shots. And do they cut around it? No, they're like, the performance better in this one, so we'll just use it, A question, because we kind of glossed over it a bit, of you starting on Neighbours at 10. Yeah. Was the life of an actor in your vision at that point? How did it come about? And how different a life do you think you'd have now if Neighbours didn't exist?
I'd been acting. I started when I was, I want to say 5. It honestly started, I was in like a kinder performance of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star that was on stage before the local primary school. I was the star. But like before the local primary school were doing their like school play, my kinder was associated with the primary school, and they did a little singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star performance. And because I'm a narcissist and a showboat, I went up and everybody was like, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And I went up and grabbed the mic and started belting out Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and doing like air guitar and like making it really big, and kind of like the audience were loving it and I was enjoying making them laugh, essentially. So like a lot of parents there at the time said to my mum, they were like, oh, he seemed really confident up on stage. He looked like he really enjoyed it. Have you considered getting him into performing? And then, I went to an open casting call, booked a HBA ad, like immediately from that. And that was fun. It was one day's work, and I got to ride a scooter downhill a bunch of times, and it was, that was catered. So I was in. And from that, I just started auditioning, and, I had a few jobs here and there. There were a couple of short films, there were a couple of TV shows. There was like a Tropfest finalist film that was really cool. And a few different TV shows. But the biggest job I had before Neighbours was I was on the first season of Underbelly. We shot that in like 2007. I ended up getting cut. I wasn't even in the show, it turns out. I didn't get to watch it because I was 10 years
you still
old.
got paid, right?
Wikipedia.
So, you still get paid.
Yeah, it still makes the wiki. But and then I was just kind of auditioning, and I auditioned a lot more than I got jobs. Obviously, that's the life of a jobbing actor: is you go to these auditions and callbacks for callbacks and all of it, and then they've gone in another direction, and it's like you just kind of have to accept that that's part and parcel. And so I was very okay with that kind of lifestyle and the rejection of it. Like that was, it was part of the job. Then, booked Neighbours, and it completely changed my life, and it's, I think it was fantastic. I loved it. I had so many beautiful formative experiences there. It obviously changed the trajectory of my life just by virtue of the fact it was like over 6 years of like essentially full-time work. It did change the dynamic of kind of what I was doing. It changed my social life. It changed, everything. It really was completely transformational. But I can't even fathom where I would be if I hadn't found that, whether I would have just continued performing and done other stuff or what would have actually ended up happening. I don't know. I think I probably would have still maybe gone into film and television, but maybe not. I don't know whether it was the exposure, the consistent exposure really led me to the path I'm on at the moment. But yeah, I may well still be acting, or I might have become a chef, I might have become a doctor or a lawyer. Well, no, okay, not that. But like I might have become anything. I don't know. It's impossible to know where I would be, but I'm where I am today, and I'm very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to do so. Because it's also, like we said earlier, it's such an incredibly rare thing to have consistent work as a performer in this country, particularly, but more broadly as an actor. 99% of all actors are unemployed. So like, I mean, like obviously they have other work, but in terms of like acting work, aren't booked for roles. So fortunate to have been given that opportunity, and yeah, it was fantastic. And, you know, surrounded by beautiful people. Like, I think that environment is a pressure cooker of personalities and emotions and people, and it's the breadth of experience that everybody has as a performer, because, you know, it's an ensemble cast. I was working with people that were in their 70s, and there was people who were 20 and 40 and like everything in between. And bouncing off that and being in that environment was just, yeah, fantastic. And I learnt a lot there. I experienced a lot there, and it really was just fantastic.
It shone a big light on your life that then you've been represented by it for such a big portion, that you have been, you know, Callum from Neighbours. Does that make it hard for you in trying to move beyond that? Like, is it annoying to be asked questions about it even?
So it's not like it's complicated. It's like any relationship with recognition is complicated, because I'm recognized for a thing that I did a while ago.
When you were young, yeah.
Oh yeah, when I was young, it was at the time. And
no,
even
that's what I mean.
time,
you were recognized for something when you were young, you know, like it wasn't.
Oh yeah.
You know.
So, well, yeah, I'm recognized as the kid off Neighbours, or Toadie's kid. So it's like inherently I have this kind of association with, yes, being a child, which I'm not, as is apparent by the lines on my forehead. It's like I am almost 29. Yeah, I think it's strange, because I do have like such a... Anytime anybody would recognize me for the work I had done, even like at the time, it was just, I was so appreciative of like people taking the time to say, hey, I like the work you're doing. Like, because that's ultimately what they were doing, whether they were asking for a photo or a signature or just a chat. It, you know, is a weird... I think the ego very easily can slip into thinking you're hot shit. I really tried to not do that, and you know, be really quite humble about the fact that I was just really fortunate to have the experience I was having. And also, like, I saw the pitfalls of people who took themselves too seriously because of the job, and because I was there for long enough, I got to see every kind of person be plonked into that pressure cooker scenario. And for some people, particularly people who were, you know, 20, playing the lead early 20s, late teens characters with the love triangles that are in 5 eps a week and are getting put on TV week every week and are getting smashed for press and smashed for like their time. It was like a time vortex for them in terms of like being there every day of the week. That's a crazy life. I didn't get to have that, which I'm kind of fortunate in a way that I made the call to leave when I did, because I left kind of before that maybe would have been the outcome. I don't know. But like, I think, it's weird to identify myself with myself as a child performer now. Like when people are like, oh, you were on Neighbours. It's like, I was, yeah, that's the thing I did. And they're like, oh, how was it? And I'm like, it was great. Like, people can ask me in-depth questions about it, but I am kind of divorced from that reality now just through time. Like, as I'm sure you guys have experienced, once you're a year out of something, it feels different. Once you're a decade out of something, it really feels foreign, really. Like it, you know, it was a while ago. So for me, yeah, like it's, cause I do work in like all different kinds of environments. I film weddings as well. That's something I didn't say earlier. Like I do that too, because again, freelancing, it's like, yeah, sure, I'm available in this date, film a wedding. And I'm finding increasingly that it's the brides and grooms who are like my age now, grew up watching Neighbours when they were like 10, 11, 12, 13 in their teens, who are recognizing me more and more. Whereas previously, maybe it was like their mums who might have been doing it, or their nans or whatever. I still get that too, obviously. But like, yeah, it's been interesting kind of seeing that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel blessed for the opportunity that I've had through that experience of working. And yeah, I'm happy.
Talking about that decision to leave, I feel like that's, to a large extent, it's quite a mature thing to do at 16 or 17. What was the genesis for that? Was there someone who gave you some advice? Was it just purely you could see how much you were missing out on in terms of your childhood that you didn't want to lose? Because you didn't get swept up in that child star thing. You seem to have quite a mature head on your shoulders from a young age that kept the blinders on in the right moments, so to speak.
So it was like 9 months before my contract was going to be getting renewed, because I was just signing 1-year contracts year after year. And it was like 9 months ahead of time that my agent had called me and said, hey, they're just forward planning story stuff now. They just want to know if you're going to re-sign next year. And I was just like, I'll get back to you. And she was like, oh, okay. And this was like halfway through year 10 at the time. So I was like, just turned 16 basically. And I was just kind of mulling it over. Like, do I want to continue doing this? Do I want to do like VCE, which is like the, year 11 and 12 in Victoria,
final exams sort of thing.
Yeah, final exams kind of stuff, to then go off and do uni. And I really was just considering like, okay, I'm in a position now where I've missed enough schooling that I'm noticing that there are gaps in my knowledge because I've missed core parts, fundamental parts of the learning experience. Like I'm feeling socially kind of divorced from people my own age. I'm feeling, stunted is too strong a word to use, but I do feel like it just kind of changed my social dynamic in a way. So it really just for me was just kind of this moment of, okay, am I going to continue doing this and try to do VCE and year 12 and work on Neighbours? And I'd seen people do that and fail and then drop out of school because they were like, well, I've got full-time work and, that's what my focus should be. But then they'd leave Neighbours and then suddenly they'd be like, oh, fuck, what am I doing? Like that. I can't say that it's the wrong decision to make to opt to do the work. Just for me personally, I just felt like I was going to be more rewarded by actually just hitting pause on that and going and doing school. And even when I left as well, the producers said to me like, hey, if you want to come back, like let us know. Like that's on, like that could be on the cards potentially. But like I didn't say that. I was like, no, I think I'm done. And like I went back a few times, obviously, over the course of once I'd actually finished up. Like I did go back just for little bit parts here and there, video calls or popping in as like for 2 weeks and then leaving, or a few eps here and there. But I was pretty happy with like it being kind of like closure. And yeah, look, my life could have turned out completely differently had I stayed there. Had I stayed there, I might have been there until the end. I don't know. Like, I can absolutely see the reality where being like, hey, this is consistent work as a performer. It's very rare. Great. I would stay in a position like that. And like, some of our friends that have worked on the show for a decade, you guys were there for what, a decade? Like, Maddie,
Matt was like a decade, yeah.
Yeah, like it's a great environment surrounded by fantastic people, and it's very easy to go, cool, this is probably that's the right thing to do is to be secure in my work, and like it's safe in a way to stay, but also, yeah, like we were saying earlier, the reality of being an actor is a lot of unemployment. So like, it's looking a gift horse in the mouth if you go, actually, I'm leaving now because I want to go forge my own path doing this other thing. So it was a bit daunting to make that call for myself. But I'm glad I made it because, it's led me to where I am today. And I can't envision what I where I would be had I not made that choice. So it's like that was ultimately the right choice to make because it led me to today. Yeah. But yeah, you know, obviously we all, you know, we're all on a life path and, you know, we can only do what we've done and hope for the best.
Mate, that's so good. I wish we had this conversation earlier. Although it is a bit weird to sort of sit down and do this is your life in the green room. Rather than on this sort of a thing.
The nature of this is that we're allowed to ask questions that feel kind of odd to ask in person a lot of the time, but approach it in a way that, like, you know, we know each other, so let's sort of just hang out and we can go on these AI tangents, but at the same time, dive a little bit deeper into who and what we are and the decisions we've made, which I think you've been really good at answering. And I think genuinely a lot of people would be really interested. And I think so many people would look at you at 16 or 17 and go, what the hell, why would you choose to leave that? But the way you answered it, it gives a great insight into the realities of what that is. It's because people have that perception of what their life was at like 16 or 17 and can only think of the additive of then being on a show like Neighbours, but they can't conceptualize the subtractive of what doing that actually means and what you've actually got to lose to pay for that.
I think for myself, I just was acutely aware that as I'd played this character for enough time, the lines between myself, like who is Morgan, what is the identity of Morgan versus the identity of this character I'm portraying, were just somewhat blurred because I was portraying this character 5 days a week and I hadn't really had the opportunity to just socially kind of develop myself and figure out, oh, who do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be? And, you know, like it's easy to just kind of fall into. Also, in that environment, I think because the character of Callum was fairly like, you know, witty, charming, hilarious, like, well, you know, that's, you know, it's just who I am in my natural life. But like, I think, you know, the character also was just like an idiot and made stupid decisions all the time for funny reasons of, oh, isn't it funny to mind drama out of comedy? So, yeah, I think for me, I just kind of wanted to really establish who am I and what does it mean to be me? And, you know, every day is a new learning experience of figuring that out. And today I know who that is, but, you know, 10 years from now, I'm going to look back at this and go, God, Morgan, you rambled so much in that conversation you had with Maddie and Tack.
I hope that 10 years from now, you're still thinking about this conversation.
I will be with regret. I'll be thinking, why did I say that? Why did I say that? Oh my God.
No, I have to give you a compliment too in that, because I didn't know you when you were on the show for that initial stint. What year did you finish up?
2014.
2014. So it's a couple of years before I started, right? And
yeah,
but when I did, you know, if your goal when leaving was to like establish who you were and get your own identity and I guess provide yourself confidence in knowing that, when I did meet you, I don't know how many years later that was that you came back to do short stints and stuff, I did see a super charming young man who had his head on his shoulders in a way that gave you a great amount of confidence in terms of how you related with people. But you also kind of knew, even however many years after that point, your kind of direction, what you were wanting and your goals and how you wanted to achieve that. So I think like you as a compliment, you did achieve that thing that you were describing with which you wanted to leave, which is amazing. And I guess to the credit of having the role in the show, without it, it may have taken you a lot longer to get there because you were forced to challenge your identity. And that's something where some people fall victim to it, but I think you fell not victim to it. What's the opposite of victim in that context? I don't know.
I'm the success story. I'm the exception to the rule. You know?
Yeah. You're the success story.
Thank you. Sure. I mean, it's, you know, we're always growing and learning. I think it's, at no point do you wake up and go, now I'm a fully formed human and it's all worked out and I know what I'm doing today and who I am and everything's perfect. Like, you know, we're all in this state of flux, but that's being human.
No, well, thank you very much, Morgan, for coming on. I think people will be really enlightened by a lot of what you've spoken about. And it's been really interesting for me to hear from your perspective, and like the difference between your story and Ryan's as Toadie on the show, and the different decisions you guys made in kind of very similar circumstances. So it's yeah. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
You're a
well,
legend.
his sorry to cut you off when you're wrapping up.
No,
but like
go.
obviously he kind of was a blueprint of like, okay, that is a potential
What I don't want to be.
Like, no, it's not what I don't want to be, because like I love Ryan, he's fantastic, but like I could see how all encompassing it was, because that's just the nature of the work. And it, like, he started there when he was 15, I think.
14
top of my
maybe,
head,
yeah.
or 14. Yeah, like that. And again, that is kind of that formative stage of life. And he was there until he was 40. So it's like that's a long
60,
time.
I think.
60, yeah. When I met
70,
him versus when he left, there was a lot more white hairs in the beard. So like it's, but yeah, he's like, yeah, he was fantastic to work with. I didn't even touch on how great the cast were, how great Ryan was. Oh no, I'll have to come back and tell more. Sorry, I derailed you when you were wrapping up. Fuck, why have I done this?
No, can you wrap up? You do the wrap up for us.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, I do the wrap up. Okay.
Yeah, you do the wrap up.
Hey guys, thanks for listening in.
Wait, before you do that, the reason why you're wrapping up is because you know how to do it, because you have your own podcast, which you haven't released an episode for a while. I don't know if you're still going to do it, but people could go check it out anyway.
There's a hiatus. Yeah, there's been a hiatus. It's called The Squid and the Owl. I haven't done it for a while, but maybe this is the kick up the arse to bring it back. I've been moving house. Life is complicated, but
it is.
Yeah, so where to find me? Don't worry about finding me. I'll find you. I'm just I am in your walls.
That's
creepy. Yeah, look, I'm on Instagram. I don't post, but my Instagram is Instamorgs with a Z, because when I joined it was like the year 2011, and in the green room we were all sitting around because it was like a novel thing to have Instagram. It was like, oh, what should it be? I was like, oh, I'll go Instamorgs, because why not? Because the name Morgan Baker was taken, and I still have that, but I don't post to it. But yeah, the Squid and the Owl podcast, you can find it everywhere you find podcasts. We talk about films. I haven't recorded an episode in like 9 months, but maybe I'll drop
a
more
lot of
when
good
this
films
drops.
since then.
Mate,
you got to do it. There was a good, all the Oscar-nominated films were fantastic. I'd love to hear you talk about them. You've got a really interesting perspective.
I think we talked about Sinners, which obviously Michael B. Jordan won the Best Actor.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we talked about One Battle After Another, because I reckon that came out after we'd paused
later,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to do an Oscars recap. But yeah, I hope your viewers have enjoyed this. I hope your listeners have enjoyed this. Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Bin Night with Matt and Tack. I've been Morgan Baker.
So what do you think? Morgan Baker.
What a legend.
I want to see this. I got to try to find this Snapchat series, his cook show.
Well, I'm definitely like, I think I mentioned it in the pod, unless Tom cut it, that we'll have to do stuff together. But I'm definitely I'm gonna text him. We talked about it after. We'll make something. So watch this space. There'll be something coming by the end of this year. I want us to have released something. Don't know what it is. Don't know how long it is. Don't know what format it is. But we'll make something.
Is it a cooking show? Is it a cooking show? No, people need feel-good things at the moment.
Well, cooking is feel-good, but I think there's plenty of people who are good at cooking who are doing that already. And now we'll be doing something.
You don't know how good he is. He could be really, really good.
No, but he's wanting to be more behind the camera. He is a baker.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, no, he's great though. I hope people liked his perspective and found things interesting. Give us your comments on what you think about AI and that kind of stuff too, and whose perspective or what perspective you have on it, because we are in the age of AI now. We've moved on from the internet and social media, and now it's all about AI. So it'll be interesting. I wonder what the next age is going to be. AI kind of made sense, right? Well, I guess the next age is probably the age of robots. We actually have robots starting to be commonplace. I'm only excited for it in the sense that you could just get something that does all the cooking and cleaning and All the things that I don't have the funds.
We can get that now. It's just people.
Yeah. Can you? But I don't. But they cost a lot, right? And I'm never going to probably have the funds to be paying someone to cook and clean for me every day. Whereas the cost of a robot, maybe it becomes more possible.
Double time either. They can work overnight. Yeah.
And it could be affordable for everyone that then they're not having to spend time doing that, and they can spend more time with their kids, spend more time working on business or whatever they're doing.
You know what? I should get one that can start prepping for me. He can just start digging the bunker.
Yeah, isn't that called an excavator?
No. Yeah, but the same deal,
Does
right?
it on its own.
He's just going to do it on his own. I'll get solar power. He can charge himself, and he can just dig whenever he's got spare time.
Yeah, fair. Why not?
I'll get Claude to start ordering every canned food in town.
Yep, very good.
I'm not that bad, but I am excited for that.
Yet slippery slope, Matthew. Slippery slope. But you've been filming, Maddie. Very exciting for you. This new role playing. Would you describe him as a 25-year-old surfer with?
That was the character description.
Hair? Yeah.
That was good. Little bit out of practice, but it's very much like the on-set camaraderie is so much like Neighbours. It's so good, and like what Morgan was saying, it just feels like home. Like that scenario just feels like home. Everyone's focused on their job and their job only. They're aware of your job, but everyone's just so good at what they do, and they make it happen. So it's reaffirmed that like, hey, this is my happy place. I like being here doing this, and challenging nonetheless. But we've been working on this. It must be like a 40-meter long super yacht. Is it a super yacht? What's a super yacht?
I don't know what the
how big does it have to be?
What
maybe you
makes
can land a helicopter on it to be a super yacht. Well, it's that big that it's got a garage, and it comes up.
Maybe it's more to do like
come out the back.
Maybe super yachts can cross oceans, but you can.
Oh, actually, no. I'm pretty sure a yacht is something
Has a sail?
Carries another boat. Or doesn't have to have a sail. Oh, the wind yachts have one, but this is super yachts don't have sails, right?
I'm looking this up, Matthew.
Yeah, we need to find that out. I'm pretty sure a ship is a boat that can carry another boat, like lifeboats and rafts and tenders and stuff like that. But it's this thing is
yacht
absolutely
is a hard word
beautiful.
to spell. It just says the difference between a yacht and a super yacht is the size, crew, and luxury. With super yachts generally defined as luxury vessels over 24 to 30 meters, which is 80 to 100 feet.
Yacht.
So that's a super yacht,
There's definitely a super yacht, and it's got like 5 staff or something on it. There's 2 separate rooms where you can drive this thing. It's insane. And it's just like it makes me kind of sick looking at how much wealth this thing is. I think it's $120,000 a week plus expenses if you want to rent it.
You could have crew and stuff, right?
Yeah, they're the expenses plus the diesel, plus the food and everything that goes on. It's insane. Plus cleaning that thing would be a beast.
Well, that would be the crew, right? You got the bosun and the deck hands.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Clean it every day.
It's a big job. But it's while you're walking down the street, losing your keys and walking 8Ks again. We're doing the same 8Ks, but on a super yacht. And I'll just go between the commercial kitchen. Sometimes we'll go into the wheelhouse or the garage in the back. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Fun. I'm jealous.
And it's got this stabilizer as well. You'll appreciate this. Have you seen a boat with a stabilizer before?
I understand the stabilizer, but you can understand what it's doing. But yeah.
It's like a gyro that sits in the center of the boat and it cancels out the rock, but it is so efficient that you look at these big waves coming towards the boat and then your boat stays still and you're like, what is going on? Look up when you get a chance.
How does it?
There's heaps of videos on YouTube. So look up on YouTube, boat stabilizer, and they do tests at like boat shows where people rock the boat. They'll stand on the side and then they turn the stabilizer on and they can't shake the boat.
Does it have like jets that are creating, or is it just purely the gyro spinning?
It's just a gyro. It's just weight distribution. Yeah. Or centrifugal force, rather. But yeah, it's cool.
That's really cool. They have that in buildings too for earthquakes. Like there's really tall buildings. They have like a pendulum in the middle, like a giant ball, and it'll oppose the movement of the building, so it stabilizes it, which is kind of insane. That's an idea that someone had in the shower, that ended up being put in reality. It's like, what if we just put a giant ball on a pendulum inside the building? And they were like, oh, yeah, let's do that. And then they did it. And it was
That's
like, what
crazy.
the hell? That's great. Here's this giant ball inside this building.
Or you could just have a really heavy elevator, and that would work the same way, right?
Imagine being on that elevator that like swung as it went up. Oh God. But yeah, great.
Trying to find me.
Great episode. There it is. There it is. All right. Well, do you have a joke, mate? It's your turn.
I'm trying to do some sort of joke between a tip and having no tip because I got full bins. And how do you make that connection?
Tip.
Maybe you can make that connection.
Tip.
Yeah.
That's a tip for you, Maddie, is to be more on your jokes. This episode's been lacking in the joke department. So that's your tip for this week.
It's really been lacking.
It's really been lacking. That's close enough to a joke, isn't it? All right. See you next bin night.
See you next midnight.